This video is brought to you by Squarespace. From custom domains to beautiful websites using their easily customizable templates that you can have up and running in minutes, e-commerce, email and email marketing, SEO, analytics, and scheduling, Squarespace does it all and has done it for us for the last 6 years. If you are a small to mid-sized business in any industry, Squarespace is the place to go for all of your website needs. Hop over to www.squarespace.com/Hugh for a free trial. And if you like what you see and want to move forward, receive 10% off your first order by using the discount code Hugh at checkout. Thanks, Squarespace. Imagine this. Sony's a7 IV finally starts shipping. You look at your a7S III and say to yourself, do I really need everything the a7S III gives me, or can I bank the difference by selling it and picking up the a7 IV? You go through the pros and cons. Pros, the a7S III can record at 4K 120p, oh baby. 4K 60p, full width, no crop. And, right, the 9.44 million dot EVF, oh baby. And then there's the maybe it has better thermal management, even if Sony says the 4 has the same kind of thermal management. What does that mean exactly, kind of? There are the cons. The a7S III doesn't have the in-body focus breathing control of the a7 IV. It doesn't have the latest manual focus assist that the a7 IV does. It only has 1/3 of the megapixels the a7 IV does, give or take, which means it doesn't have a crop mode for that extra reach when you need it in a pinch. The a7 IV maybe has better autofocus. And then there's that $1,000 list price difference, most of which you may be able to keep when you sell it because the global supply chain is so messed up that the prices of used latest generation cameras are stupid high. Well, not that stupid. If you need one, you need one, but you get my point. And the point that while there are other advantages to the a7S III, the a7 IV is just wow. So, you do sell the a7S III to cover a new a7 IV. You do keep most of the difference, enough to buy, say, Tamron's crazy good $900 28-75 2.8 G2, although now that Sony's second generation 24-70 2.8 is out, maybe you stretch for that. And in either case, the combination is awesome. Until the first time, you need to shoot at 4K 60p, and now that automatic crop to APS-C Super 35 slaps you in the face like a bad case of Amber Heard. I couldn't help myself. Popular culture has wormed its way into my brain like a seti eel, but while I suspect many of you in our usual audience will be able to relate to the non-hypothetical hypothetical I am describing precisely the process we did actually go through, the reality is that the gear I'm about to share with you is aimed at people, by Sony anyway, for whom either of these cameras is overkill. Hey everybody, I'm Hugh Brownstone for 3 Blind Men and an Elephant again, just 2.5 hours after my last video was released, but now I want to talk to you about Sony's announcement of 3 new APS-C coverage lenses this morning. They're $500 to $600 11mm 1.8, $700 to $800 15mm 1.4G, and $700 to $800 10 to 20 f4G power zoom. These were the price ranges, by the way, given to us by Sony during our briefing, but will be finalized by the time you see this. Too late for me to confirm here. Anyway, they are all designed to be small, light, video-centric optics, given the ambition of an ever-growing segment of the population to become YouTubers, and for whom things like ProRes RAW 120p or significant 5-figure spends on a camera, never mind lenses, is really not in the cards. But with this said, I am only going to go into detail about their 15 1.4G, because it is the most interesting lens to me personally, the one I've been able to play with, and the one I will summarize right now this way. It is one heck of a lens. Very sharp edge to edge, even wide open at 1.4. Little to no chromatic aberration when properly lit. contrasty, tasty, small and lightweight with fast, silent autofocus. It really is next generation. Although, I did not test it for the quality of its bokeh, because low light and or subject separation are the primary goals for a fast super wide lens, not the quality of the out of focus part that you don't want the viewer to focus in on the first place. Don't get me started. I wouldn't have tested it for focus breathing either, because A, pulling focus on a super wide is not the first, second, third, fourth, or fifth thing I'd ever think about for what we do, and B, our A7 IV compensates for focus breathing anyway, although now that I said that out loud, I don't know if any of these lenses work with the focus breathing control of the A7 IV, but I tested it anyway because none of Sony's APS-C cameras has focus breathing control. Sony made a point of talking about how much effort they'd put into controlling focus breathing in all of the lenses themselves. Longer APS-C lenses will benefit from this level of ambition, and I was curious. Turns out the 15-1.4 does a really good job of it. On the other hand, more importantly to me, this doesn't mean there was no chromatic aberration. Both lateral and longitudinal chromatic aberration reared their heads when testing against strongly overexposed backlit shots, which you shouldn't do. It also doesn't mean there isn't distortion. There is pretty wild barrel distortion at that, either when you turn off in-camera correction for JPEGs or when you shoot RAW only. Not really an issue for video where it is always corrected, although why you'd ever turn it off when shooting JPEG is beyond me, and I'm hoping that there will be a profile coming soon for Lightroom that does the trick for RAW. But what was really interesting for me was this. Testing it side by side in the Bat Studio on the A6600 with one of my favorite APS-C lenses out there, my own XF 16-55 2.8 on a 24 megapixel Fujifilm X-H1, I found that the 15-1.4 was even better than I'd suspected in real-world shooting. The XF wasn't always better at controlling chromatic aberration edge to edge at every aperture as I thought it would be. The XF wasn't always sharper either. And while sometimes the XF seemed to control flare better, sometimes seemed to control chromatic aberration better, it was worse at controlling ghosting. In short, this $800 or $900 prime was as good or better at its focal length than a sterling $1,200 standard 2.8 zoom, one of the best I've ever tested, with the added benefit of being a full 2 stops faster and shallower and smaller and lighter. In an era where zooms have become incredible, often better than the best zooms of just half a decade ago, it's nice, actually, to see the very latest primes reasserting themselves. But back to the cold open. The point of it is you find yourself in a pick whatever scenario you like, where you need something wider than what you've got. So let's look more closely at this and consider some of the options. You'll want something that will get you down to somewhere between the full frame equivalent of 21 and 24 millimeters, maybe even wider, because in our case anyway, the 28 millimeter bottom end of our full frame Tamron suddenly becomes a 42 millimeter, and the 24 millimeter bottom end of most standard full frame zoom lenses becomes 36 millimeters when we're shooting 4K 60p on our A7 IV, and much as we didn't want it to matter, sometimes it just does. But whether it's our use case or yours, an A7 IV, A6600, A6400, whatever, in 2022, this wider field of view needs to be a lot better optically than what would have traditionally been one's first port of call in Sony's E-mount APS-C coverage world, the APS-C only 10 to 18mm f4 OSS. Why do I assert this? Well, because the 10 to 18 was introduced a decade ago, which is like, 70 dog years, and simply not up to current standards. And it just wasn't all that in a bag of potato chips even then. Now, you could get a full-frame lens, something like Tamron's $900 17 to 28 or Sigma's 16 to 28 that I just reviewed a couple of hours ago, and both are exceptional. Or you could get a dedicated APS-C lens like Sigma's $550 18 to 52.8. But let's suppose you do need to go a little bit wider, maybe for vlogging or gimbal work. You could go with Tamron's $830 dedicated APS-C coverage 11 to 22.8. It does give you options. But what if you want to go shallower, smaller, sharper? These are all scenarios where this APS-C trio of lenses come into play. Put simply, based on my experience with the 15-1.4, the briefing we received from Sony, and follow-up materials, all three of these new Sony lenses should be at or near the top of your short list. This video is brought to you by Squarespace. From custom domains to beautiful websites using their easily customizable templates that you can have up and running in minutes, e-commerce, email and email marketing, SEO, analytics, and scheduling, Squarespace does it all, and has done it for us for the last 6 years. If you are a small to mid-sized business in any industry, Squarespace is the place to go for all of your website needs. Hop over to www.squarespace.com/hugh for a free trial, and if you like what you see and want to move forward, receive 10% off your first order by using the discount code HUGH at checkout. Thanks, Squarespace. If you like what you've seen here today, please give a thumbs up, subscribe, join the conversation below, because this is an incredible audience. If you'd like a copy of our Streets of New York, the book, head over to www.3bmep.com/books. If you'd like to schedule a one-on-one video session with me for a portfolio review, explore or hone your artistic voice, select gear, and more, sign up at www.3bmep.com/booking. Finally, consider supporting our work by using our no-cost-to-you affiliate links down below, picking up some official Three Blind Men and an Elephant swag at 3bmep.threadless.com, sending coffee money via PayPal, or best of all, join us as a patron over at Patreon. However you choose to support us, as always, we thank you for it.